Prologue. That'll do. Max lifted his hands from the console as a confirmation prompt popped onto the screen. A circular reticle spun on the monitor, displaying the data downloading to his external drive. After nearly 2 years, Samuel Maxwell would have what was rightfully his. Unfortunately, it had come to this: breaking and entering. Morally, it was a poor choice, but given the circumstances, it seemed like the only one he had. How much time do I have? 3 minutes, but I would suggest getting out in 2. The VSF agents have a little more pep in their step tonight, the voice in his earpiece warned. Valerie Sanderson was an old friend, but sometimes he wondered if their friendship meant more to her than the money he spent on her services. He had to assume so, since she had kept his feet out of the fire more than once. Of course, this job didn't have a paycheck attached to it, and if they were caught, it might cost him her friendship. She had argued her point fairly well. So well, in fact, that Valerie's propensity for arguing reminded Max of his sister Steph's when she was 14 and literally hated everybody and everything. Of course, Steph had grown out of it eventually. Mostly. The command line on the computer monitor flickered, drawing Max's attention away from his thoughts. That's not normal. What's not? He let his hands fall back to the console and swept his fingers across the keys. No activity. I think someone just SSH'd into the computer. There's a command override in place, and I lost control. A slur of vulgarities slipped from Valerie's lips before she updated him on the status of the VSF agents. Dummy 1 and Dummy 2 are heading back your way. I didn't hear anything on comms, but I think they know we're here. Of course they do. Max resisted a curse from escaping his lips as he glanced from side to side for an escape route. The server room had a main access point, which led into a main corridor equipped with cameras and some dirty little security bots. That way was no good, unless he wanted to get tased and dropped like a sack of flour onto the tile floor and picked up by the cops. There was the way he came, but that was a tight fit and not especially quick. Slim pickings, he thought, ruefully. What are you going to do, Max? Valerie's voice pitched higher. He knew she was nervous, but also too stubborn to admit it. I hope I don't have to say I told you so, he thought, as his eyes darted back to the grating in the floor from which he had entered the room. It was his primary way out before he realized someone was onto him. Now, with the possibility that he hadn't slipped in unnoticed, Max wondered if there was someone, or a bunch of someones, waiting on the other side. I don't have much choice. If they're patrolling the halls, then I'm coming back the way I came. It's a tight fit under the best of circumstances. You better hurry. You have 30 seconds. If the download isn't complete, then you're going to have to give up on it. He knew that, but kept it from himself. Sarcasm wasn't going to get him out of there, and it definitely wasn't going to ingratiate himself to Valerie. The only thing worse than a scared Valerie was a mad Valerie. I wish I had more time. I need this to work. I risked too much for this not to be worth it. Max yanked the external drive out of its port and stuffed it into his pocket. He moved over to the hole in the floor and dropped into the subfloor, pulling the grate back into place. He crawled hurriedly toward the entry point, trying not to panic as the main door whooshed open above him. Footsteps filled the room, and it was more than 2 VSF agents by the sound of it. No one's here, a man said into his comm. He's there. You just missed him is all. Lock down everything." The voice on the other end of the comm was like a stab to Max's heart. He knew that voice better than he knew his own. Jacob Amont was a childhood friend. They had been through most of their lives together. They broke both of their arms doing the same stupid stunts together. They even started a mega shipping corporation together. But after Jacob betrayed him, all the good things they shared paled in comparison. Somewhere along the line, Jacob hooked up with the wrong people for all the wrong reasons. It cost Max more than his friendship. It nearly cost him his life. "Roger that. Tito and Randy, stay here in case the target pops up. The rest of you, come with me." Boot Heels clambered out of the room, and Max slowly began to drag himself back toward the hole in the subfloor from which he'd entered. The tunnel was a tight, 50-meter descent into a neglected storeroom that Max had discovered when he and Jacob purchased the building. It wasn't even marked on the blueprints. He never thought that would be useful information until 2 years prior, when half a dozen goons with guns came after him. He slipped away thanks to someone else's forethought in designing this nifty little escape route. But that was the last time he had been in the building until now. Had Jacob discovered it as well? If so, then what was waiting for him when he emerged? He pushed the thought down as he pulled himself through the tunnel. At the end, the tunnel opened into a dark, empty storage room. Max slid out, rolled over onto the floor, and rose, shaking off the claustrophobic feeling. "What happened?" Valerie startled him. Max turned, surprised to see her in the building. "What are you doing here?" "Comms cut out, and I got worried. What do you think I'm doing?" She stood there with her hands on her hips, her long blonde hair unkempt, and framing her beautiful face. Her eyes shone like sapphires, momentarily taking his breath away. Her headset was still on her head, with the end of the cable in her hand. She was out of breath, like she had sprinted the distance from the van to where they stood, which Max figured was likely, unless it took him longer to crawl down the tunnel than he thought. "We need to get out of here." Max patted his chest and tried to get his heart to settle down. "Jacob knows I'm here, and he's initiating a lockdown." Max took Valerie's free hand and led her toward the exit. "It's not like he's here." Valerie's breathing was labored as Max pulled her along. "He took off 3 days ago for Brentia. He's probably only halfway there." Max shook his head. He didn't want to admit it, but he was spooked. Hearing his old friend's voice shook all the confidence he had felt and replaced it with fear. "That doesn't matter. If he knows I'm here, then he knows he can trap me. That's why I wanted you to stay in the van." They rounded a corner and made for the primary exit into the underground parking lot. "You didn't say to stay in the van. I got worried about you. You haven't been the same since—" She let the words fall. He didn't blame her. Each time anyone mentioned what had happened, it reopened old wounds. If anyone knew how hard he had taken the betrayal, it was her. Still, the only friends he had left walked on eggshells around him, not wanting to make the wound fester. Max had once been on top of the world. Too bad his empire had been built on sand instead of stone. "You don't have to say it," Max said, before feeling Valerie tug free from his hold. He stopped and turned back, looking at the fear in her eyes. "Valerie?" "Val, so good to see you. You appear in good health." Max turned, his heart sinking before he saw the man's face. Max! What a totally unexpected surprise! Corporate espionage was never your style, but I suppose time changes a man. Tell me, was the server room how you remembered it? I made some upgrades while keeping to the same aesthetic. Jacob? The man appeared like a ghost from Max's past. His dark hair was perfectly styled, framing an almost perfect face. His eyes shone with an energy that only 1 billion credits could buy. Perhaps 1 billion credits did buy his look, and that stupid smirk, Max thought. You thought I was somewhere else, didn't you? Of course you did. You're so predictable. Jacob took a step closer as 3 VSF agents stepped from around the corner and leveled their weapons at them. Bringing Val along for the ride was a bit out of the norm, but if I'm honest with you, I always knew you were the kind of guy to drag someone else down with you. She didn't have anything to do with this, Max said, trying to position himself between them. She didn't know why I was here. You've never been a good liar, Max. You know that as well as I do. I think she knew exactly why you were here. Otherwise, she wouldn't have bothered. A payday is a payday, am I right, Val? You know what you can do with your opinion, don't you? Valerie stared daggers at her former boss. Jacob chuckled. I'm sure you want to tell me, but unfortunately, the two of you have appointments you need to keep. Besides, your wit isn't your best attribute. You were always a good comms tech. Perhaps you should have stuck with that instead of helping a criminal tap into my security systems. I just came to get what was rightfully mine, Max said, his voice tight in his throat. Rightfully yours? If that were true, you would have come through the front door 2 years ago and accepted the buyout offer. Instead, you ran away and spread lies about me. Thankfully, my partners could see the lies for what they were. They understood why I couldn't go any further with you as a partner. Instead of accepting that, you turned on me. I guess that's the price of being your friend. A price Val is going to have to pay since she joined you on your little coup. You tried to kill me. What other choice did I have? Jacob smiled a toothy grin, and Max hated him for it. If that were true, then you wouldn't be sucking air as we speak. I could have these men blast you to Kingdom Come and claim self-defense. But again, as I said, you're a terrible liar. Men, see that these two are apprehended and bound. I would love to catch up with you two, but unfortunately I have other business to attend to. He turned away and started walking. Leaving others to do your dirty work? Max asked. Just like the last time. I guess that's why you're so comfortable denying what happened, huh? Jacob stopped, but didn't turn back. It was good to see you, Max. But I'm afraid it's going to be for the last time. Enjoy your sentence. By the time you get out, this company will be off-world and you'll be spending the rest of your miserable life stuck here on Cavano, like the rest of the bottom feeders. Max watched him walk away, unable to take his eyes off the man he had once considered a friend. No, a brother. As Jacob disappeared around the corner, the 3 VSF agents drew closer, their weapons trained on him. On your knees, the lead guard barked. Max complied, and he sensed Valerie doing the same behind him. Within seconds, his wrists were bound, and he was hauled up to his feet and escorted out of the building, where a blacked-out van awaited. He was shoved into the back of the van and buckled into a seat, followed by Valerie. There was so much Max wanted to say, but he couldn't find the words to begin. Instead, they rode in silence as Jacob's last words to him echoed in his head. He was going to be left on this colonized rock while Jacob moved up in the system. All the dreams Max ever had were about to turn to dust. His life as he knew it was over, regardless of the term of the sentence. There was nothing he could do to fight back. He had been caught on the premises, forcing his way in and hacking into the computer system. No lawyer could defend that sufficiently to sway a conviction. And what was worse was that Valerie was involved. He had just turned her life into dust right along with his. "Valerie," he said under his breath. She didn't reply, but he knew she was listening. "If they give you a plea deal, take it. Tell them everything." Her jaw dropped. She canted her head toward him. "I can't do that." "You have to. Swear to me that you will." "Stop talking," one of the cops guarding them said. Max couldn't see the man's face behind the face mask, but he felt the cop's fiery stare nonetheless. He ignored the warning. "Swear it," Max said once more before the cop landed a heavy fist into the side of his head. Max's head drooped down for a moment, and when he finally looked up, Valerie was staring at him. Tears welled in her eyes, a quiet expression that said so much between them. But mostly her side of the conversation was remorse. A moment later, she nodded curtly and looked away. That was it. It was settled. And there was no going back.